As a child, you may have read about Jane in a popular series of books used in school to teach children how to read. But the conventional happy image of her life painted in those stories was a lie. All grown up now, she has become a capsuleer with a chip on her shoulder and a commitment to follow 4 rules she calls her guiding stars. These are the adventures of Jane Honesty, and in this challenge, we shall see how and how far Jane can fly while staying true to her convictions. I want to start this episode with a shout out to Justin Seeley. Justin has created a tool with challenges just like this in mind. I'll put a link to it in the video description, and it's called Eve Hub. Once you've logged into it via the Eve ESI, you can enter any blueprint you like, and it will assemble all the blueprints needed for component items. Then it calculates all the materials you need and how many runs of each blueprint to build what you have in mind, breaking it all down by the types of materials involved. Having Eve Hub on hand made what we're about to see together much easier to lay out. Jane wants to build a Stratios. The Stratios is the Sisters of Eve faction cruiser. It combines properties that make it suited for exploration, along with considerable combat capabilities, and to fly it requires a combination of skills from both the Gallente and Amar empires. As with any faction tier ship, building a Stratios is more of a challenge than Tier 1 ships. It requires assembling materials that cover a broad range of activities and game mechanics, including asteroid mining, moon mining, ice mining, faction loyalty points, and planetary industry. Until recently, it also involved gas harvesting, but that requirement has been removed. Starting with the Stratios blueprint itself, the materials tree as you move through creating the components needed and the subcomponents of those components, down to the raw materials involved, looks something like this. Let's start with the minerals. That's probably the easiest part. We can get these from melting down stuff that drops from wrecks. Of the list here, Zydrine and Megasite will be the hardest to get, but if we can't find modules that melt down into the quantities that we need, we can always resort to mining them. Next, let's take a look at the blueprints. Except for the Stratios blueprint itself, obtaining these is pretty straightforward, at least as far as how to get them. We buy them from the NPC market. It's the raw ISK cost of them that's going to be the hurdle here. In all, 380 million ISK that we're going to have to grind out one way or another. Without access to selling things on the player market, bounties are probably going to be the go-to way to generate that revenue, with mission rewards being maybe a second-tier source of income. The Stratios blueprint itself we have to get from the Sisters, and there are 2 ways we can manage this. The first possibility is to grind out Sisters of Eve loyalty points, and this way we'll take 40,000 loyalty points and add another 20 million to the ISK that we have to raise. The second possibility is to find a rogue drone 43X Nexus chip, which is a 1-to-1 trade for the blueprint at any Sisters station. The 43X Nexus chips drop from sentient drones in drone combat anomalies, but they're rare. The sentient drone spawn itself is rare, and then the chance of that dropping a 43X is a random roll on the loot table of all the things that it might drop. If we get lucky, it could drop on the first anomaly we run, but then again, it could take a bazillion tries. You just never know. Next on the list is Sisters of Eve Net Resonators. There's no way around just grinding out loyalty points for these. Each one is 1,000 loyalty points and 1,000,000 ISK, and we'll need 60. That brings our ISK grind up to 440 million, and because the Sisters don't care about faction warfare complexes, the only real way to grind these out is by doing missions for them. So, depending on whether we want to buy the blueprint or look for the 43X chip, we're possibly looking at 100,000 loyalty points and 460 million ISK now. That brings us finally to the 2 remaining items that we'll need to build the Stratios: auto integrity preservation seals and life support backup units. Fortunately, there's quite a bit of overlap in the requirements for both of these. Apart from the preservation seals needing super tensile plastics and nanites versus the life support backups needing test cultures and viral agents, the big lift here comes down to reinforced carbon fibers. Reinforced carbon fibers come from a secondary reaction involving 3 subcomponents that are produced from primary reactions, each of which requires a combination of products obtained from moon materials. The primary reactions, however, are powered by fuel blocks, which themselves need to be manufactured from a combination of ice materials and planetary industry products. Again, fortunately, the 2 kinds of fuel blocks we need largely overlap in the materials required. Everything except for hydrogen versus oxygen isotopes, which come from different kinds of ice. In any case, planetary industry isn't going to be too hard, but the ice and moon materials are going to take some effort. Putting the whole list together for materials Jane will need to collect, it looks like this. Of course, what we've covered here says nothing of building the modules Jane will want to fit before flying her Stratios to the Eve Gate, and beyond that to Zarzak, and who knows where else. At the very least, those fittings will include a covert ops cloak and Tech 2 weapons and defenses. These things don't drop from NPC Rex, and it remains to be seen how much of that Jane will have to build or cull from the wreckage of player ships. But from here on, in one way or another, Jane's adventures will lead her through whatever it takes to realize her Stratios-filled dreams. Sometimes with EVE Online, figuring out where you want to go is as much fun as getting there. It's a sandbox, but one where the sand is all kinds of colors, and the tools for shaping it are amazingly varied. Again, I hope you enjoyed watching today's episode as much as I enjoyed making it. And as always, I appreciate that of the 1,001 things you probably could have been doing today, you took 10 minutes to, if not exactly play EVE Online, to play around EVE Online with me. Thank you.